Welcome to Cash Flow Savannah. This is episode 20. How are you, Chandler? You doing okay today?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm kind of enjoying this fall weather, I guess.
Yeah,
It's getting cool, so I'm enjoying it.
we are recording this in late September. I'm sure this will launch in October, but we're starting to get a break on the heat, and it's always a welcome change for sure.
Yeah, we have the best falls, I feel like.
That's
It's
true.
like we really do. So,
Not too hot, not too cold. It's just right.
yep, that's right.
The
So, what are we
only
talking about today?
Today we have a great subject. It's just Chandler and myself today. As everyone knows, I'm sure Chandler and I both work at Sidwis here, and we manage furnished rentals. And we do a lot with short-term rentals, and we do a lot with what I call a long short, which has also become to be known as a medium-term rental. So we do a lot in both spaces. And so as real estate investors, and I know everyone's here to learn, it's so important to understand property management. So we are going to talk about it a lot. It happens to be our field of expertise, but it's
Mhm.
also just crucial for any real estate investor. You can buy an asset and have a beautiful asset, but the way it's managed, it makes a huge difference in your cash flow and the value of the property moving forward. Would you agree, Chandler?
No, absolutely. I've now that I work with property management, I kind of see what actually goes on and like answering some questions that people don't think about when they go and hire property management is
Yes.
very important. Sometimes they just kind of look and go, "All right, yeah, I'm just going to hire these people because I like them," without asking the right questions, I guess.
Very true. Well, and Chandler, one thing that I want you to talk about today, if you don't mind, is that you have unique experience that I don't have, and that's the truth. And that's the fact that you worked at a different property management company before you came to Sidwis here. And it was not in Savannah. It wasn't like I stole Chandler from a competitor. I've actually known Chandler for a long time. But he happened to have gotten a job somewhere else and had that experience. And the interesting thing that I want to point out for what we're talking about today is that the property management company that Chandler worked for previously, again, not in Savannah, the property management, they are not themselves investors, right? They were there. They just started a property management company. And, they obviously we do similar things as they do, but we're also going to do things just a little bit different because at Sid was here, we are all real estate investors. I own the company and I started it because I'm a real estate investor and because I was frustrated with the property management I was receiving from outside sources. One of my
Mm.
biggest frustrations, which I cannot express to everyone listening enough, is that there were a lot of hidden fees that I was not told about when I signed up. Everything sounded great. And then I started going, why did I get a reduced payment this month? And then I'd see a charge that I wasn't aware of. And then something else would happen. That is why Sid was here exists, is because I, as a real estate investor, was using a property manager and I got really frustrated. And they made me so mad that I started my own company. And here we are many years later, talking about property management. Can you talk about just the differences that you've seen personally, Chandler, between a non real estate investor, property manager versus one who is themselves a real estate investor?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing that I like really noticed was technology. Um, we just no technology, no sort of advertisement. Um, we were on one platform only, and that was my first property management job. So I just thought that was it. I was just like, okay, it's cool. Um,
Now, when you say they were on one platform and one platform only, explain to the listener what you mean by that. I know what you mean by that, obviously, but
yeah, so
these are important questions.
we were advertising just through VRBO only. Whereas well, I say we advertise through everything you can think of: Airbnb, VRBO, Furnish Finder, Google. I mean, there's a ton of different things that we advertise through.
Right. We're on about
Where
10.
yeah, and they were just on one platform, and I was like, okay, that's just how things work. Um, I think that was the biggest thing, like no dynamic pricing.
Mhm.
Pricing was a big thing that I had no idea. It was just set pricing throughout the year, and pricing can be huge. That was one
Right.
thing that can be huge That's probably one of the first questions I would ask. Hey, how do you do your pricing?
Right.
Because that can make you so much more money with the dynamic pricing. So that was one thing that I learned when I jumped over here. I was like, just the amount of technology that we have in this is just insane. 24/17, we weren't 24/7. Like we had our office hours that we responded, and then once we left, we'd get a call if something major happened. But as far as like responding to guests 24/7, um, that wasn't it. We would just come back in the morning, respond at 9 a.m., whatever it was. But yeah, the technology was just completely changed. That's what I learned a ton. Um, but as far as the property goes, we weren't very technology based.
Very true. And, you know, when people are looking for a property manager, and whether it's a long-term property manager or a short-term property manager, okay, Chandler brings out some really great points. What does your team look like? What kind of customer service do you have for my tenants or guests? You know, this is how I see it. Obviously, not every place sees it that way, but when you have a short-term rental, you are running a hotel. People are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they may have an issue. Now, a long-term rental, you don't necessarily have to have a 24/7 team. You know, obviously, if there's a leak or something, you'd kind of like to know that in the middle of the night. But there are very few things that you can really do much about in the middle of the night, just to be honest with you. Even if we have had a plumbing leak in the middle of the night, and sometimes we can get someone there and sometimes they have to wait till the next day at 9 a.m. But in general, with a short-term rental, if the guest can't get in, you know, maybe something happened, like if we have a break-in, which has happened once, you know, things like that. And at Sid was here, we absolutely have all the technology. We're on a lot of platforms. If you're in the short-term rental business, that should be the number one question: is what platform will you advertise my place on? It's a very old school thought that, oh, Airbnb guests are crap, nobody wants them, I only advertise on VRBO. Well, it is my experience, and I've been at this a long time, maybe 10 to 12% of guests book through VRBO, and they are wonderful guests. May I say, I mentally hug every VRBO guest. They're great. I agree with the statement, but as a business practice, I disagree, because I'm myself a real estate investor. I'm in this to make a profit, as should you be as well. And so you want a manager who's also aligned. But a very old school property manager, I'm sure they're lovely people, but typically
Yeah,
they're used to dealing with, yeah, wonderful people. We're not saying they're bad people, but a lot of times, and tell me if I'm wrong here, Chandler, because you worked there and I didn't, but a lot of these old school property managers are used to dealing with people with lots of money. They have a house near the beach that they enjoy a few times a year with their family, and they really don't care if it makes money or not. Even if it comes close to breaking even, they're happy. Okay, that's a very old school mentality. But nowadays, people are buying these properties as investments. They're buying them to not just pay the mortgage, but to make a profit. And it's so important for the real estate investor to have a property manager that understands that they really want to make a profit. I would never leave someone's nightly rate at $200, 365 days a year. We use a technology source, which we pay big money for, but it pays us back. And it's called dynamic pricing. The price bounces up and down every 12 hours based on demand. If we have a new event scheduled in Savannah, my technology knows about it before I do, and they're already raising the rates to match. Oh, we have the rock and roll marathon is going to be November 8th. Obviously, that's going to be a big weekend. We'll see that a year in advance on our technology and go, it's a high demand weekend, but we don't have to really think to raise the price, 30%. We pay for the technology to do that. There can be a lot of
yeah.
human error in pricing. So you bring up a
It,
really good point.
and it did. Like it did happen. There was this huge weekend that the pricing actually was supposed to go up, but we were doing that manually, and it didn't happen that year, and it was kind of a mess. But yeah, that's
Oh,
where dynamic pricing comes in and really helps you out.
would you agree that that mess up cost the owners of the properties thousands and thousands of dollars
Thousands,
in lost revenue?
thousands of dollars. It was
Oh,
funny. Like the day after that weekend, somebody called me and was like, "Hey, we want to book this place again for next year." And
I bet they
I went
did.
in and I was like, "Hey, here's the rates. Like, I was like, you got a really good rate this year, but here's like what they're going to be. And he was like, what? And yeah, it was a lot of money that was cost for sure.
Well, and I want to say too, we just took over a property on Tabby Island, and it's on the beach. Okay. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful property with a hot tub, you name it. Like, and the owner had been using a kind of an older school system. I don't think they were on anything but that one platform. I'm not sure, but they had rented this beachfront home in Tybee for $200 a night in July. And Chandler, you and I pulled up the pricing the other day for 2024, and we're pulling 1,400 a night for the same exact house, because that's what demand is. That's a 4-bedroom house on the beach with a hot tub. It's worth it in July. That's a high demand time. So that's just really important to go, oh, that 200 versus 1,400, who wins? The property owner, and the guest is still going to get a great house, at market rate. And this applies for long-term rentals as well, though. I want to say that, there's old school and then there's new school, and I manage my own long-term rentals. We aren't allowed to manage for others at this time, and we don't. But I just want to tell you, as the listener, it's important to pick the right property manager for your long-term rentals as well. And they're not going to be able to use dynamic pricing. It's not worth it in long-term rentals. In short-term rentals, it very much pays for itself. But what they should know is how to check market rates, and they need to be checking that every year. 60 days before renewal, your property manager should be going and checking the rental rates based on what's happened in the last month or two. And they need to be resetting those rates every year and going up on your tenant. If your manager isn't doing that, if they're just offering the same rate year after year after year, you as the homeowner are losing money, because they're not that motivated, to do that for you, unfortunately. So you want to, that's another question when you are looking for a property manager, or if you're looking to switch property managers, that's a huge question, is tell me about your rate increases. How do you do them? When do you do them? How is it handled? Things like that.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like all the mom and pops businesses that started probably 15 years ago, they were able to get away with just kind of one platform. And
Right.
because it's kind of funny, when I was out there, you could see just demand for short-term rentals growing. It used to be like 60-40, where most people were just like living in them 60%, and 40% were short-term rentals, and then completely switched in 2021
Mm-hmm.
to where it was, I think, like 65 short-term rentals, 40% were just people living in them.
Yeah.
And you got to adapt to it, and some people just haven't quite adapted.
Yep. It's important that your management matches, your plan. We have short-term rentals, and I mean, we have one specifically, the owner's never even physically seen it. They bought it, they handed it to us. It's been cash flowing ever since. They are not staying there. It is a true investment. This is not a pleasure home for this family. It is to make them money. And we're really proud to do it for them. It's great.
So yeah, no, and I feel like there's just some people don't know the right questions to ask.
Right.
So the right questions to ask are kind of like technology, which people don't know about that in property man. I didn't know it. I was working in it, and I didn't really know about it until I came over here to work with you. So use this to know what questions to ask when you do switch over. And can you talk a little bit about how the switchover process works? A lot of people are extremely scared of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great topic, and it's not one that's discussed very often. And here at Sid Was Here, I tend to talk to almost all the new owners. Sometimes Chandler will handle it for me, but it's scary to look for property management. Seems to be scary, and people, I see a lot of fear in switching property management, and I'm not sure why. Because to me, the upside is ginormous. When you look at, a lot of time the homeowner is very aware that they're not getting as much as they should for the property. And I personally am very motivated by income. If I can make an extra $500,000, I'm going to be very motivated to make that happen. But I think that the fear of how much work involved with the switch kind of makes them lose money. And I guess that's fair. But one of the biggest reasons I want to do this episode is because we're dealing with this every day, and we love, whoever you are, if you have a property that you'd like us to take a look at, we'd love to take a look at that for you. We take on homeowners every single day of the week that may be switching from a different management system, and that's okay. It happens. We all need to earn our keep, right? We need to earn that position every day and prove to you that we're doing a great job. And if not, the homeowner can and should, leave. So like I said, I do see that fear quite a bit. And I can't speak for other property management companies. I can only speak for Sid Was Here. But really, the changeover process is not that difficult on the homeowner. The changeover process is a lot of work on us, the property manager, as it should be. We're there to pay for ourselves. If our fee isn't paying for itself, if we're not making you more than what our fee costs, we shouldn't be in business, so that's always our goal, is to be an asset to the homeowner, not a liability. We're such an asset. They never talk to a client. They are very rarely bothered. Once we take over management of the home, they really don't have to do anything. We'll do everything. We'll let them know if something's wrong. And the changeover isn't that difficult, especially if it's a lot of people that are self-managing are very eager to change, and they're thrilled, to pass it off. But where I see the hesitation is when they have a property manager. And I want to say the most important thing I can say about the process is I don't care who your property manager, they might be horrendous. They might have burned the place down. I mean, I don't know, but whoever your current property manager is, always treat them with kindness and respect. We won't be contacting them. There's no need for the two companies to speak to each other unless you need us to. But I always advise the homeowner, just, once you decide to switch to us or maybe someone else, either way, just notify your property manager in writing, email them and just say, hey, Mr. Smith, it has been a pleasure working with you. I'm going in a different direction. And if you can just please close off my calendar, right away. I need to see what bookings I have on the books, but just let them know that right away. They're going to close off your calendar. The one thing you don't want in a changeover is double bookings. So, let them know, just please turn it off right now. And then you should be good. Hopefully you have access to that. But if you don't, they can easily print you a list. And so, we can do it. We've done it several different ways, and it's always up to the homeowner, of course. But a lot of times we'll say, okay, well, I have bookings, through the end of October. And so they'll stay with that property manager until the end of October. And then we'll go ahead and open up. We're going to create our own listings for their property. And then we're going to open that home up starting November 1. So we can open it up today to book for February of 2024. That's no problem, because I am confident in what they've told me that they've already turned off their calendar with their other property manager. So it's really just this day we stop with company A, and the next day we start with company B. And as long as the communication is clear and the calendar is blocked, there are very few issues. There are some bigger companies where they're supplying the linens, they're supplying the lock system. So not a big deal to buy 4 sets of sheets. I mean, that is literally an Amazon purchase. The homeowner can do it. We can do it for you. Changing the lock, we do that all the time. We've done that on multiple properties where we took the management over. We'll go purchase the lock, put it on for you, and then you just, you pay the cost of the lock is really how it is. So really, that's as complicated. It's as complicated as you make it. And it's as simple, as you want to make it. So we really handle all the transition. I talked a little bit earlier about being with a property manager and asking all these questions. And one of the things that you do want to cover is the fees. Like, what fees are you going to charge me? One of the biggest things that I was frustrated with my previous property manager was that I felt that the fees were kind of hidden. Now, they probably were in the contract somewhere and I didn't catch it. And that's on me. I'm going to take ownership of that. But when the biggest fee that upset me that I have now refused to charge was a photography fee. I mean, I had to rent a unit, and first off, they were going to be taking the first month's rent, which really chaps you. Okay. That's a lot of money. So I was already frustrated about that, but I understand that's the industry. This is a long-term rental. Okay. Not a short-term rental. We don't take the first month rent in a short-term rental, but they were already going to take the first month's rent, which I think is a very high fee and should cover their expenses. That's my opinion. And then I get the bill when the tenant paid the second month's rent, and they took out a photography fee for advertising that. And I said, wait a second, you're going to charge me the first month's rent and you're going to charge me to shoot it, and it was like 250, 300. It was a lot. And this was years ago. And I personally book a
Mhm.
lot of photographers to do real estate, and I've never paid anywhere near that. And I was very upset. I'm telling you, I just felt like I was being nickel and dimed. And then once I realized that they were also making money off of upcharging when something broke in the home, they were marking it up 20%. And I said, I don't like that they're very motivated for things to break. Are they really going to fix it right the first time? So these things really bothered me. And I want to say, in defense of all property managers, they do deserve to get paid. But you, as the investor, need to realize the lower the fee they're charging. And I had someone that was charging a lower fee. And I thought, oh, yay, I'm saving all this money. But what I didn't realize was that they were getting their money elsewhere. And this is true in short-term rentals. This is true in long-term rentals. The property
Mhm.
manager works very hard. They have a large staff. It's not easy. Okay. The reason no one wants to do it is because it's hard and it's just very time consuming. So I completely get that. I'm running a company myself. It's not free to have all these people running around looking at houses and doing things in the houses. It is not free. They do deserve to get paid for that. They should not have to work for free. But I want to understand how they're getting paid. So now that I understand how they're getting paid, now I'm a little bit furious and I'm going, hey, I'd probably rather pay a higher percentage. This is what I came to. Okay. I'd rather just pay a higher percentage, a flat rate fee every month, knowing what I'm getting, and then not getting charged nickel and dimed on the backside everywhere else. And we've seen it here in Savannah with other managers that manage furnished rentals. They'll call me, they'll say, what are your fees? And I tell them, and we're very competitive in the market, but we are not the cheapest. But the guys that are the cheapest, I looked into them, and boy, they are charged every time they set foot on that property. They're charging
Yeah.
that homeowner $40 to $85. And gosh, I'd love to do that because it's not free for me to send you there, Chandler. It's not free for me to send someone else. But they're hiding those fees very creatively. And I think a lot of people just don't read their statements. So they're going, oh, I'll stay with them. I'm only paying this small percent. And I'm like, but are you? Let's look into this. I mean, for example, Chandler, we just had a hurricane. How many staff hours went into getting every house we managed, getting it ready for hurricane, checking on right, putting everything inside, and then going back and rechecking after the hurricane? How many staff hours would you say we put in on that?
I mean, we don't normally. That's a lot of homes that you got to drive around to.
Yeah, you
Uh,
remember it was days, right? We spent days running around that. Not a penny was charged to the homeowners because we tell them up front, we take a percent off the rent, which is a solid percent every month. But then when a hurricane happens, guess what? We went around, we buttoned everything up, and we went right back around after the hurricane. We checked on it. No one saw a bill. That was already covered in that monthly rate. That's how I have chosen to do it. But we just have to be aware. With other companies, you're going to get a fee for that. And you need that. You need those services. You want to make sure your patio furniture is tied up. All the cushions are inside. Are the windows closed and locked? These hurricanes are big deals. And I was cringing through that. Okay. As the owner of this company, I was just in a horrible mood because I'm paying all these people to go to every house we manage 2 to 3 times, first off. And second off, I lost thousands of dollars in bookings, as did the homeowners, and so that was a very expensive hurricane for me. And don't think it didn't bother me, but at the same time, that's what we do as property managers. We hope to make really good money in the good times, and when it's bad, you're going to lose money, and it's all
yeah.
got to even out in the end.
Yeah. No, that's some people just get stuck on that one number. Oh,
Right.
what do you charge? And they go, oh, well, they're charging 15 and you're charging 20 and this one's
Right.
charging 20. They get stuck on that one number. And I love that we can just go, yeah, we charge this and we don't upcharge anything.
Right.
Um, it's just so nice to be able to say that. Whereas we've seen some fees from other managers and they're pretty tough.
It's tough. And I just believe wholeheartedly in honesty. Like I just think that's so crucial, especially when I'm managing someone's asset. Like
Yeah.
their trust is very important to me. And I didn't get to say this about photography, but when Sid was here, obviously this is for furnished rentals only that we manage for others. That photography is included. One photo session is included. When we start, we cover that for free. Why? Because
Yeah.
I'm still mad about my other property manager, 20 billion years ago, charging me photography. So we actually include the photography. So we try to make that changeover so easy on the
Yeah.
property owner because we really want them to come. We want to earn their business. That's just so important. And you always want to have professional photography. I would never just go, oh, yeah, we'll just use what you've got. Now it's
Mm.
going to be my photographer, and she knows exactly what I want and how I want it done. And it's going to look the way we want it. That's so important.
Yeah. And when changing over, just one thing that you've already mentioned is like, yeah, just be like super kind and kind of just let them know, because if you make it a tough changeover, it kind of makes it tough for everybody. If you, because some property managers will be like, oh, I'm deleting all these bookings, blah, blah, blah. And you're just screwed. So just be nice about it and
Right.
don't burn a bridge.
Exactly. Yeah. Usually, if you're kind and you say nice things, they're going to work with you. It doesn't have to be dramatic. And if it is dramatic, that usually tells you a lot about who you've been
Yeah.
working with and maybe the changes for the best. We haven't seen too much of that. We've had a couple of them kind of kick their heels and get mad, but I mean, it's business. Sometimes we've lost owners as well. No one is perfect, but just be nice through the process and respectful. And it usually is really not a big deal.
Yeah. So, well, I think we covered a lot of good questions today. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. And we'd love to talk and give you some more answers.
Absolutely. Sid was here, manages all over the low country, down the coast, up the coast to the Savannah River. And we also manage inland Pooler and Richmond Hill. And we're trying to move into Effingham County. And we're in Pembroke now too. So anyway, we're really proud of the service area that we cover. I cracked up because, we got a lot of regulations in Tybee a few years ago, and there are a lot of property managers on Tybee that are named for Tybee, and I think I crack up because I'm like, yeah, their service area is kind of limited, but Sid was here. As you know, squirrels are everywhere. And that's why we chose the name. So we're really proud of what we're doing. And I hope everyone learns something. Like, if you don't have a property manager now, you will in the future. And it's just really important to know what questions to ask, what things to look for, things like that. I hope this has been an educational episode for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on and listening. And please like, comment, subscribe, share to mom, grandma, whoever you can think of. And we will see you in the next one.
Thank you so much.